So we want to welcome you to the show, everyone that's listening today. And so welcome to You Are More Than Enough. And we are talking about the power of overcoming imposter syndrome. So we are talking all things confidence, lifestyle, and soul care. And today I have the beautiful Miss Ashley that we're going to interview. So welcome, Ashley, and thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Hi, Whitney, and hi to your listeners as well. Thank you so much for having me, Whitney.
Absolutely. So, we'll jump into it. We have a little bit of time here. I'm really big on testimony in your story. So if you could give us maybe 3 to 5 minutes of, where you started on your transformational journey to where you are now.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. And yeah, so going back probably, several years now at this point, but like 6-7 years ago, I was about 15 years into a career that was great, and until it wasn't. And I started realizing that, it was not serving me anymore. I was like burnt out, overwhelmed, not happy, not fulfilled. And through that process, I had also started losing my confidence professionally. And I was just so exhausted from everything and, questioning myself and am I good enough? And what's wrong with me? Like, why can't I feel good about what I'm doing? Because on paper, my career looked great and everything checked out and I was doing all of the things, but I still had this, I don't know, this feeling that it was something was off. I wanted something more, something different. And on top of that, I was just burnt out and overwhelmed. And with that realization, I finally, I broke down basically. And I was actually traveling for work, and I was in a city where one of my really good friends lives, and she asked me, she was like, have you ever thought about hiring a life and career coach or a life coach? And I was like, no, that's never crossed my mind. But I'm open to anything, because at this point I was like, I know something has to change, but I have no idea what it could be. And so I did one of the best things I've ever did for myself. And I started working with this coach, and I quickly realized that, that I needed to quit my job. I needed to move forward. I needed to figure something else out for me, but it was hard because I had been 15 years into a career and I had no idea what else I wanted to do. But through working with her, she, one, helped me figure out what I wanted to do next, but also helped me realize like who I truly was. And a lot of the stuff that I had been socialized or conditioned about, as we all are, weren't actually true. And I was able to take my own power, my own confidence back with the tools that she gave me, and really see what's possible for me and see what else I could do with my life. And that opened up so many other things for me. And that's how I started my business, from that space, from feeling confident, from overcoming all these beliefs that I had about myself, that I had to go a certain way or be a certain way, or that I couldn't do entrepreneurship, because that was one thing that like crossed into my mind. I was like, I would love the freedom and flexibility of being an entrepreneur, but I'm like, that's for other people. That's not for somebody like me, right? Like, I'm not smart enough, creative enough, like all of the things. And through working with her, and then of course several years, like the journey that followed, and continuing to do personal development and work on myself, I was able to combat that. And because of everything that I learned about myself during that first kickoff of my transformational journey, I was like, I want to teach other people how to do this and overcome this and figure things out for themselves and see that so much more is possible. We just are a lot of times holding ourselves back, but not to our own fault. It's just, everything surrounding us is telling us all these different mixed messages. And so that's when I was like, this is what I want to do. This is my passion. This is my purpose. I want to help other women find their confidence again, figure out what it is that they want to do. If they want to find a different career that's more purposeful for them, great. If they want to become entrepreneurs, great. If they want to be like whatever it is that they want to be, like let's cultivate some confidence and overcome like, yeah, the not good enough feelings that I can't do that, because I truly believe everybody can. And so that kicked off my journey. And that's what led me to becoming a transformational life and career coach, to help others find their confidence again and create from that space, create the life and the career and all of their dreams. So they can be living fully into their thrive mode with confidence. And so that's where I am now. I kicked off my business about 2.5 years ago. And it was really from overcoming some of these beliefs that I thought that I couldn't do any of this. I never saw myself as an entrepreneur. I never saw myself as a business owner. And now I am, and I'm thriving, and it's successful, and it's really freaking cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. First, there's so many golden nuggets in that I really want to touch on, but congratulations for stepping out, right, and taking that leap of faith. As you are being stirred up to do so, I kind of want to backtrack as far as like, as these feelings began to pop up, like I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, right? As they began to come to the surface, do you think this was something that started prior? And then once you got into your corporate position, it was kind of ignited, or it surfaced and you were able to see it? Or was it something that you're just now in your corporate job identifying?
I think it was something that started prior in my life. My mom is a perfectionist. My grandfather is, like, all of the things. And I think I was touted as the like golden child, for lack of a better word. Like, I was always like, got good grades, played the sports, did all the things. And I think some of that pressure has definitely bled into my adulthood. I didn't really feel it or see it that way when I was a kid, because I think obviously our brains are still fully developing and we're kids and all of that. But it definitely had an impact leading into my professional life. And I think once I started in the corporate world, 100%, because it's always like, anybody who's been in corporate knows that there's a lot of pressure there. And I think that, just like you said, it ignited it. And it was like, I don't want to say the wrong thing in a meeting, or I don't want to sound stupid, or I've got to get this like paper or I worked in public relations. So I worked on like press releases. And so got to get this press release and the wording just perfect, or like, I'm going to get like, maybe not yelled at, but like people are going to be disappointed in me, and like all of the things. Right. And so I think that just continued into my 15-year corporate career. And just as that went on, my confidence like went down and down and down. And I was still getting like promoted, and I still feel like people were telling me like people liked working with me and all of that. And I was doing quote unquote a good job. But I think internally I internalized a lot of that and never really felt good enough. And so I think that contributed to losing some of my confidence along the way, as well as the burnout, the overwhelm, all of that too. I think I probably some of it was the nature of the work I was doing and all of that, but some of it was also I put on myself, and was like in the grind mode. I need to work 24/7 to make sure everything's perfect, and make sure I get promoted, and make sure this is good, and all of that. So
yeah, definitely. And one of the biggest things you said is perfection, right? So that halting us from moving forward. I do know that there's a lot of women in the corporate world that want to move into entrepreneurship, but they get stopped from perfectionism, linked back to imposter syndrome. I would be curious to know, if you could go back to that moment of putting your resignation letter in with that corporate company that you're with, what you felt in that moment.
So many things. I was, so first off, I was scared, right? I was nervous. I was super nervous to have the conversation. And I actually worked with my coach leading up to it and talked about like visualizing the perfect, well, visualizing what you want to communicate and how you want it to go. And so that actually really helped. But I was nervous and I was feeling guilty. My boss was, I liked working with her. I didn't want to leave her. I think we do this a lot, especially when we're leaving a company. We feel bad for the team or the people we're leaving and feeling like we're going to be a burden. Our leave is going to be a burden and all of that. And so I definitely felt like I was nervous, guilty. I felt bad. I didn't want like the team to suffer. And I also, it was weird because at that point in time, I didn't really have everything figured out. So it was like even harder at that time for me, because I was like, I wasn't leaving even for another job. I was leaving for myself to figure things out and to start a company that I didn't even really know of at the time, know fully about at the time. Right. And so it was hard to even have that conversation with her because usually people can be like, well, I'm leaving for another job. It's a better opportunity, whatever. But this is like, I'm leaving to figure some stuff out and start my own business. Right. And so that was just, that played into it too. And of course I was still like what happens? Like, I've never quit a job before without having something else lined up. And I was like, shoot, like I got to figure something out. Right. And so that was also very, very scary and a fear that I had to overcome, because I had never left a job without having anything figured out. And what happens then? I have bills to pay and a mortgage and all of the things. Right. So.
And even in that moment, just letting go of perfectionism, like that's huge. Like that's what I hear, like as you're telling your testimony, like in that moment, you had to just let that go and really trust yourself and prioritize yourself and what your soul was speaking.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're exactly right, Whitney. Like that, I had to trust, I had to know that I had my back no matter what, and that I would figure it out. And yeah, I had to let go of everything being perfect. I had to lean into the uncertainty. I had to lean into the fear and just let go and know that some way, somehow I will figure it out. I have my own back, and it's not going to be pretty. Like you said, like there's no perfection in entrepreneurship as well. It might not always be pretty and it's going to be messy, but learning to lean into that and let that go. I mean, I think that was one of my biggest lessons when I first started my business. I was like, I'm a one woman show at this point, I was at that time. And I was like, things aren't going to be perfect. And I've got to be okay with that. Like we're either winning or learning. Somebody told me this very early on in my entrepreneurship journey. And when I started my business, it's just like, I don't see it as winning or failing. I see we're either winning or learning. And that's true, because there's going to be mistakes and there's going to be successes and there's going to be mistakes. But we've got to just lean into that and learn from the mistakes that we make and move forward. We can't take it personally, and we can't wait for perfectionism, because then we'll never be ready.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I want to know too, is like prioritizing yourself, right? I know that was like a huge thing for me, is how do you go from this place of, not putting your needs first, not putting, what you deep down inside know that you need to do. Like, I mean, for less of a better word, it's like, what was, the straw that broke the camel's back, where you're just like, I have to take a stand. I have to draw the line.
I was just, unfortunately I got to this point, but I was just so miserable. I was coming home so late. My commute was insane. This was pre-COVID, obviously. My commute was insane. I was coming home late, and I would just fall, and at the time my fiance, but I would just fall on our couch and fall asleep on the couch, or just immediately just veg out or whatever with barely getting in a word to him or in doing anything for myself. And I felt like I was living a shell of my life.
Yeah.
Because of the long hours, because of the long commute. And it was just kind of like the same thing over every day. And then weekends weren't even fun anymore because I was like playing catch up in terms of like sleep or just wanting to chill or whatever. It was like I didn't even have time for fun or joy in my life. And it just started to ripple out into my entire life. And I realized like, no, like this cannot be what life is supposed to be like. It's
Right.
got to be something more and different. And so I was like, yeah, something has to change, and I've got to start like prioritizing myself and figuring out like what that was, no matter how scary or how uncertain that was. I was just like, I can't live that way. I have to prioritize myself, because it was affecting my relationship with my husband and my family and my friends. Like it just rippled out.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like literally, it sounds like it was sucking the joy out of your life, like everything that you'd want to live for, because relationships being important, taking care of yourself being important, just having that time on the weekends for yourself. And so I hear you just saying like you were open to possibilities, right?
Yeah, I feel like I got to a point where I was like, that was the only way forward. Like I kind of had to. And I hope, like, I don't want anybody, I talk to my clients about this all the time. I don't want anybody to have to get to that point. I want, like, let's prioritize ourselves before then.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was looking at one of your LinkedIn posts and I was like, okay, this is everything in one post. Like I fell in love. I was like, she's hitting all the right points. And while we're just in this vein of the conversation, one of the things you talked about was just like slowing down and like having that time to rest. And kudos to you to say like, I can do it non-traditional as I'm building my business, and still be successful, still be fulfilled, and still be in joy. So what does that look like for you today when you talk about like slowing down and rest, finding that place?
Yeah, strong boundaries, for sure,
Mhm.
especially with, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, like we can really, I mean, especially because I love what I do, right?
Yeah.
Like I can really get tied up into that. But I know, and I saw it firsthand from my corporate career, I know that that's not a good place to come from. And so for me, this has all been a practice and a learning as I've started my business and as I've progressed. But I've learned that slowing down and actually resting and taking the time, like that's when the inspiration comes. That's when the
Mhm.
creativity comes. When you step away from the business for, a few hours and not like go out and have fun and do something, like that's, you need that time to not only regenerate, but then also that's where some of the like creativity and the inspiration comes from. And so for me, that looks like, one, as much as possible, I don't work on weekends.
Right.
That is my time for myself. Yes, sometimes I may do something in the morning or whatever for one of my clients or whatever, but as much as possible, I don't work on the weekends. And then I have 1.5 days in the middle of the week. So like Thursday and like all day Thursday and Monday mornings, that's time for me. I don't take client calls, and I don't typically do any other type of other calls. I do nourishing things for me. Thursdays I'm maybe like working on my business in terms of like, not client stuff, but like, okay, maybe I'll write a post or work on my newsletter or work on, something that I need to. But I also regularly like block out Thursday afternoons to go like get a massage or take some time for myself to get out and take a hike or get into nature or just something that's nourishing for me, because we need it. We need it. Self-care is really important, whatever that looks like to you. Sometimes for me, that's taking a nap in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
like, like legit, like we need, like, I have no qualms about taking naps in the middle of the day, because if I listen to my body, and that's another thing that I'm so much more in tune with, is I listen to my body and I give it what it needs. And if it needs to take a nap, I'm going to take a nap at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's fine. I don't care. Like, I have no shame about saying that, right? And then on well, not every morning, most mornings of the week, I do a morning practice. And that is so nourishing. And so for me, like, that I spend, I don't know, 30 minutes, maybe an hour, it all depends on the day, just as soon as I get up, and that time for myself. It could be meditating, it could be journaling, it could be doing some type of movement, whether like stretching or a workout. It could be, I do something that's called like practicing intentional thoughts, similar to like affirmations. I'll do that, and just really kind of spend that morning, maybe set some intentions for the day, just spend that morning for myself. And as best as possible, I try to do it without looking at my phone first. And that makes all the difference. Like, to spend that like first 20 minutes of the day without checking your phone, just that alone can do wonders for your mindset and your day. But just really like making sure that I have that time for myself and have strong boundaries around when I'm working and when I'm not working, and stick to them. Like, that's kind of the hardest part, really, is sticking to some of that. Cause yeah, I'm not gonna lie, every now and then I'll take a client call on a Thursday if it needs to be rescheduled or something like that. But it's just learning to really set up those boundaries, that self-care, that time for yourself, prioritizing yourself, because that's all part of your business too. Like, that's been really, I found that's really important, and has been really important for my success as well. That time for myself, my own personal development, like being like having calls with my own coach, all of that, like that stuff also is what has contributed to my growth, both personally and in my business.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, that's something where I'm like, it's a non-negotiable, right? And totally have just built my business around that. So it's good to know that you're using that too. Like, a morning routine, I'm like, it's money. Like, it's the only way to go. It's the only way you're going to make it. So just appreciate you sharing that. One thing that really stands out to me that I know I was struggling with in the past is like when you talk about setting, strong boundaries so you can have that morning routine, or you can do those things that really makes your heart sing, is, I call this like I don't want to say the dirty word, but like people pleasing. Like, it was something that used to always pop up for me. Like, I know I need to do this, but I love serving, so I want to do this. How did you overcome people pleasing?
Yeah, that is a very good question. I mean, I don't know if we ever fully overcome people pleasing or even perfectionism, but it happens less and less, right? Like, and when we look at people pleasing, we're looking at, and this was helpful for me, is that's usually stemming from we thinking that somebody's not going to like us, or somebody's not going to accept us. And yes, especially as being in the service industry, that, oh my gosh, we should be doing everything for our clients all of the time. So when you look at where it's coming from, and check in with yourself and ask yourself, like, okay, well, is this really true that so-and-so is not going to like me or think that I'm doing a good job? Maybe, who knows, whatever. But like, is that really true? And really checking in with ourselves on that. Because if you actually take a minute to look at it and be like, no, it's not going to matter to them one way or the other if I get back to them right now, or in an hour from now, or tomorrow, or whatever it is. They're more than likely still going to like me and accept me for who I am, if they're a cool person, obviously. But
Yes.
but like, and also like, so that was really starting to help me. And like, okay, I know people pleasing is actually just coming from me wanting to be liked and accepted. And so that helps, that breakdown helps me. And then in the service industry, I had to get in, like wanting to help people and wanting to always be there for my clients and all of that. I had to really, I had to really take a step back and look and know and understand that my boundaries, my own self-care, my downtime, my nourishment of myself, me not responding all the time or on the weekends or whatever it is, was actually to benefit them, because I can serve them better, right? If if my cup is full, if I'm feeling fully charged and rested and all of the things, like, so seeing it like that, I actually can serve them better if I'm not burnt out and working all the time and trying to like, you know, get back to them as soon as, or whatever it is, right? Give them all of the things and all of that. So seeing that is what has really helped me to let go of some of the people pleasing, especially having clients and cuts, you know, and wanting to like, yeah, I love serving them, no doubt, but I have to have boundaries for myself, because otherwise I'm burnt out and I won't be able to do as good of a job with them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Not pouring from an empty cup. I know we are wrapping up here. I just want you to talk very briefly, because I'm such a champion for this, but you talk about traveling and how that really allowed you to discover yourself. Mm-hmm. But talk about that transformational travel and why it's so important.
Yeah, so for me personally, the first time I traveled, I think I was in college, and I went to the Dominican Republic, and it just opened my eyes up into a whole new world, to a different like culture. It was my first time out of the United States. I had no idea. I didn't know what to expect, but what I saw was like, oh, there's a whole world out here to explore. Right. Cool things happening. There are cool people. There are very nice people. There are people to learn from. And so for me, that was my first foray into international travel, into traveling. But travel in general just changes our perspective and opens up our eyes to so many different things, and why it's so transformational, and or can be, if we're like, you know, pay attention and fill into that, is because a couple of different things. One, we're in a different environment, and I think we as ourselves feel a little bit more free to do and say and try new things that we may not find or do in our day-to-day life. So that in itself, it just inherently opens us up to that, and we let loose a little bit, and we do things we may not do in our day-to-day lives. That leads to opening our eyes to different things and different perspectives. And then when we try new things, we're like, oh, I did that. I traveled by myself, or I blind, right? Like, it builds our confidence, right? Like, we do start to be like, I can do that. And so we start to see that. And then we can just use it also to like open up our eyes to different possibilities for ourselves, because we see different people doing different things, living different ways. And that just shows us that it's possible for us too. And so when we do travel right, or in a transformational way, we can have these transformations and these insights and reflection time to like see like what else is possible for us, and see things in a new light for ourselves, and see ourselves in a new light. So that's why I think transformational travel is just, or you know, traveling and how transformational it can be. Those are just a little bit of like the things that we get from it. And for me, was a catalyst for opening my eyes up to a different way of living. Because I was on a trip with my husband, then fiance, and we were in a small town in Italy, and we were going in the small town, and we're like, let's go check it out. It was like the afternoon, and everything was shut down. And I was like, wait, why is everything shut down? Like, this is weird. And I was like, no, it was like their siesta time where they get to go replenish themselves, spend time with family, have their downtime. And I was like, oh, people still live like this and people can do it. Like there's another way to live. And this is what life is all about. Slowing down and spending time with our family and friends and spending time with ourselves and like taking breaks is not all about work. And that was in the middle of me going through my height of my burnout with work. And that kind of kicked everything off and planted a seed really for me to be like, okay, something's got to change.
Yeah, wow. I just think about like what's important to you and shifting your value system. That is huge.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And that kicked that off for sure.
Right. All right, love, rapid fire. It's about 60 seconds. We'll wrap up. If there's anything else you would like to share with the audience, and then we'll let them know where they can find you, if they want to engage with you, if they want to book a discovery call with you. So I have four quick questions, 60 seconds. Favorite place to travel?
Oh God. Shoot. Europe. I'll be broad. Europe right now is where I love going.
Gotcha. You have 2 cats, am I correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay, name of your cats.
Munster and Gouda, because we like cheese and they're orange.
One thing that's on your bucket list that you want to do but you haven't been able to do yet.
Oh, there's a lot of things on that bucket list. I still want to travel to South America. It's one at, well, I've been to almost all of the continents. I have not been to South America or Antarctica, but I want to go to South America.
Wow. Okay, awesome. Last one. And this may be a little bit difficult, but I wanted to share with the audience. Just even if you share a piece of your favorite client transformation of your clients that you worked with so far, you don't have to say a name. That's okay.
Gosh. Favorite piece of a client transformation. There's so many.
I know. I'm like, it's why we do it, right?
No, I know. It's so hard. Anytime that one of my clients, and this happens sometimes, they find confidence in their own career and what they're doing already, and they find joy and are able to balance that. But I just really love whenever my clients find that confidence within themselves, find that courage, and see for themselves that, oh, yeah, I can make this work. And talking about taking the leap from corporate to entrepreneurship or creating their own like business in their own thrive mode and what that looks like for them. But every time one of my clients does that, that just makes my heart sing. And having that courage, having that confidence, overcoming their fears, and really leaning into that and starting their own businesses. And like, that makes my heart sing. It takes a lot to get there, and that's what we work on together. But when they finally take that leap, it just fills me up with so much joy.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I so appreciate just your transparency. You're so genuine, and you really do shine like a bright light. So just keep shining. You're welcome, love. And I would say, tell the audience where they can find you, where they can connect, whatever social media that you want to share, your website.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you. And thank you so much, Whitney, for the sweet words. I feel the same way about you. So I really enjoyed this experience. But yes, so you can find me at ashleydelbello.com. That's AShleyDelBello.com. That you can read more about me, book a discovery call, all of that there. I'm also on Instagram at Coach Ashley DelBello. You can also find me on LinkedIn under Ashley DelBello, and same for Facebook as well. So that's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ashley. And thank you, audience. You guys have an incredible day.